Hello, everyone. This is Sirisha, and I host the Women, Career, and Life podcast. Just like you, I've traversed varied paths, stumbled a little, picked myself up, and learned a great deal on my journey. Many of us face similar questions, but we don't always get to have a conversation with our friends or peers. In this podcast, you will hear real stories that you can connect with on the challenges of navigating career and life. You must be wondering who I am. In my everyday life, I'm a career woman, a mom, and an avid reader. I'm also a road tripper, amateur gardener, and even a fashionista on some days. Join me and my guests as we have an open and honest discussion on career change, trade-offs, and working across boundaries. You get the idea. It's a perspective you simply may not hear anywhere else. Today, I'm excited to have my good friend Usha, who's also a career woman and mom, co-hosting the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Siri. I'm so excited to join today's conversation on returning to work. When you brought up this topic, so many thoughts came to my mind as I relived my experiences. I'm really looking forward to sharing some of the stories and also talking to other guests on this podcast.
Welcome back to our Return to Work series. If you're joining us for the first time, we're talking about the many resources that are available out there for anybody returning to work after a career break. We have talked about it for the last few weeks, and it can be a very lonely process if all your friends and peers are in full-time jobs. So, Usha, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, today's episode, we're going to focus on some of the amazing organizations and resources that anybody returning to work after break can take advantage of. I think there's still a long way to go, and some careers may be harder than others, but I think there is still a lot of hope there. One important note to our listeners before I get started, we have no sponsorships or partnerships with the organizations we talk about today. So everything we discuss today is based on what Siri and I have looked at and our own perspective. So Siri, why don't you get started with the first resource of the day?
Today, I'm going to talk about iRelaunch. It's a great community that actually has jobs, internship programs, virtual job fairs, and it actually services not just women, but also men, and including veterans who are returning to work, people on expat, or people taking a personal break. So it's got these resources. And what I really love about it is it's got a podcast that features women from very many different careers.
I love that their podcasts have so many professions. I've listened to women returning to work in the government, scientific research. I've listened to women coming back and become electricians and even physicians. So when we talked about our story to other women, one thing we heard again and again is that my career is different. I'm really not sure how it would be to get back in my line of work. And iLaunch has this great coverage of stories from different walks of life. I think it's much needed.
Absolutely. And I think that's what resonated with me. So, Usha, who are we going to feature next?
Our next resource is an organization called Power to Fly. They are a platform that connects women with companies that are looking to be more inclusive and increase diversity in their workforce. And diversity not just in terms of gender, but also in terms of building a global workforce that's not tied to a specific location. What I liked about them is that they're not just a directory of jobs that you go and look and apply for. They have a lot of events and resources that focus on preparing you for the job market. I actually signed up with them back in 2015 when I was trying to return to work after break, and the experience was fantastic. I created a profile, built a portfolio of my work, and attended several of their events to get tips on preparing for the job market. These resources gave me so much confidence that it was possible for me to return to work in a part-time remote setting. Overall, they're a great resource, and they also walk the talk. Their entire team is women-led, and they have a remote team that works across the globe.
I think it's fantastic that you've had your own personal experience with it. And we are so excited that Lauren Haggerty, the Director of Marketing and Community, will be joining us for the upcoming guest episode.
We've looked at some organizations so far. So, Siri, why don't you talk a little bit about employer-based returnship programs?
Definitely. The one we want to talk about today is pathforward.org. So this one is a different program. It's employer based, and what they call it is as returnships. It's really a more formalized internship for people returning to work after a break. They do have some requirements around how long you have had some professional experience and how long your break is. So I suggest you check out their site. What I liked about it is it's a program where for about 16 weeks or so, depending on the employer, you work like a regular job and you get work experience and you get to make sure that your skills are up to date and you scope the employer out and the employer gets the same opportunity with you as well. And looking at their site, they do have opportunities across the globe. I saw opportunities in the US, in Canada, in India. So their featured uh, gamut is pretty extensive. I wish I had this program when I was returning to work, and I actually know somebody who has onboarded through this.
It's wonderful how much the landscape has changed in just a few years. There's a lot of hope and optimism.
So far we've talked about jobs. Usha, what about freelancers and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, and entrepreneurship and freelancing is such a wonderful option to try out after a break. We don't think about it as much when we're in a job. One of my acquaintances is returning to work after more than 15 years, and getting a realtor license was the best way for her to do it. She had such a great network of people and families she had built in the 15 years that she was a stay at home mom. She was able to leverage that right off the bat and get going. I don't know that she'll be a realtor forever. She may transition into a job and do this as a side hustle at some point, but it was just such a great way for her to get back to work quickly. And realtor is one example, but there are many freelancing gigs you can pursue through some of the popular freelancing sites. So let me list a couple of the sites here. Upwork.com is one that supports many specializations. Fiverr is another for marketing and building content. 99 Designs is one for graphic designers. And then there's the TaskRabbit, which is for all these housework related jobs. And then there's care.com, City for caregiver jobs. So there are many sites out there to freelance in different professions. All of these are a great way to build your portfolio while you look for work and demonstrate that you're a self-starter.
Absolutely agree. I think what we've touched upon really on this return to work series and this freelance section really highlights is ensuring that we continue to build our contacts, reach out to our old contacts, and continue to meet new people because you never know where your next returnship or your relaunch will happen. In addition to reaching out to people, go ahead and check out the resources we talked about today on our blog. We had a lot of fun researching this and going through the personal experiences. We will have a guest episode next week with Lauren Haggerty from Flower to Fly. She's such a joy interviewing, and she's so easygoing and full of energy. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation on returning to work after a break. Tune in every other Wednesday to catch the next episode. If you think a friend may benefit from this, please share this podcast with them. All the resources we talked about are also available on our website, womencareerandlife.com. I would love to hear from you about your stories and your journey. You can reach me on my blog, Twitter, Instagram, or Gmail at Women, Career and Life. Until next time, this is Sirisha signing off. Remember, there are infinite possibilities to drive change in career and life. Which will you choose to make a reality today?